So we're at the end of a series of 7 weeks. This is the 8th week. And as I said, I had a plan for this talk up until Wednesday, and it was like, let's go back and review all the things we need to do to get in alignment with the divine. Because that's what this was really about. It's how do we bring forth the abundance that lies within us. Abundance at all levels, physically, emotionally, mentally, spiritually. But when I was pulled up short on Thursday morning, it was like you're focusing on the doing and not on the being piece. And the being piece has to come first before the doing. And so this was, as I said, originally was putting it all together in a plan. You know, and I'm the let's get it done Dan kind of guy. And it was like I had to go back and say, wait a minute, what are the being pieces that we need to do? And that's what the review is about this week. And I continue to let go of so much of the doing piece, because I think for all of us, until we get aligned with the being part, then the doing begins to happen very quickly and very naturally, and we're going to talk about that piece. Don't forget this Tuesday night here in Sanctuary from 7 to 8:30, we go deeper to go higher. I've been so enjoying this. This has been, for me, the best 7-8 weeks that we've had, and every night seems to go a little bit different and very open to the give and take and the conversation back and forth. So if you can be here, please do. It's an addition to what we're doing on Sundays. And this Saturday is the second part of the workshop. It's 10 to 12 here in the sanctuary. The first one we did, how do we release all of the traumas and the stuff that we hold in the subconscious? And this is about enhancing that. But before we get there, I'm going to do a little bit of work on forgiveness, because most people focus on forgiving others, but I want to focus on forgiving ourselves. And so we're going to start the workshop from there, and then how do we enhance it? How do we bring the energy up to make sure that we stay in vibration for what our rockets of desire are for our lives? So we're going to spend a little over 2 hours. It's $20 at the door. And the last workshop was excellent. I really enjoyed the folks, and we had a lot of give and take. And I'll end up probably doing some live coaching around some of these issues as we integrate them into what we do every day. But this is what stuck this week for me. And as you know, I hold Einstein, I revere his mind, and I revere the way he saw spirituality and the way he saw energy and those kind of things. And this was a quote of his that I showed the other week, and it stuck with me over and over again. And he said, I want to know all God's thoughts, and all the rest is just minutia. And it just was running over and over and again in my mind, and it was like, you know, he's nailed this, because we spend so much time, not just in life, but also in church, in a spiritual center, on minutia, on the details. I was like, I don't want the details anymore. I want the deal. I want to, what's the most important piece of all of this? Well, be careful what you ask for, because in the middle of the week, you'll get your talk trashed and start all over again. I was like, okay, I get it. After I argued for quite some time, I always lose. And I said, okay, Spirit, what do you want me to do? And I sat back down at the computer, and this is what came forth. And it's to focus on our being piece, not what we do. And if we stay focused on the being, when I realized once I finished this, that it really is keeping the most important. So let's see what happens. The other part that came out of Philippians, let this mind be in you, which was in the greatest teacher, his mind. It's like, okay, Einstein's talking about I want to really get in touch with the thoughts of God's thoughts, the source, divine thoughts. And then you have in the New Testament saying you put this mind on, right? And that mind that they're talking about is, you know, because remember what Jesus said is the master teacher. Anything that I did, you can do and do more. So it wasn't just about him, it was about, he was giving an example for you and I to put this mind on. It was like a helmet, right? And I'm like, well, what does that mean? How do we do this? How do I put this mind on? And that's when I was taken back to some of the teachings that we've done in the last 7 weeks. And we're going to focus in on those a little bit more in the being piece. So Deepak Chopra said this: the universal mind, and you can put God in there if you like, or spirit, or source, or Brahman, or whatever word works for you for God. The universal mind choreographs everything that is happening in billions of galaxies with elegant precision and unfaltered intelligence. Now, I don't know about you folks, but that's big, right? It's so big you can't wrap your head around how big that is. You know, I've showed some of the things that are coming back from Hubble telescope because I love this stuff. That's, you know, the cosmos and the universe keeps getting bigger and bigger, growing at 12% a year. It's like, how do we ever wrap our heads around this intelligence with the precision of perfection? Is what made you and I, what created us. Let's go on. Its intelligence is ultimate and supreme, and it permeates every fiber of existence from the smallest to the largest, from the atom to the cosmos. That's a lot, isn't it? It is big, it is powerful, it's greater than you and I can wrap our human mind around. And yet, we want to work with this that only knows 4%. What? And that's what I was doing this week. I realized, and all of a sudden I got stopped in my tracks, was I was using this, and I was like, oh man, I got a really good talk going here. Gone. Why? I was using 4%. And I was ignoring the 96% that is available to you and me at every second of our lives. Why? Why do we do this? Everything that is alive is an expression of this intelligence. And this intelligence operates through the 7 spiritual universal laws. So you can, those of you who have been here through the series, you know where I'm going back to. And it was obvious that we needed to spend more time with the universal laws of beingness that then leads us to the doing. As I was going through this, I remembered reading Deepak Chopra said, so many people look out into outer space to understand this, which is what I do. And he said, no, you need to look inside. You need to look inside at the 6 trillion cells that make up you and me. And every one of those 6 trillion cells is operating around 6 trillion operations per second. Now, do the math. It wasn't big enough for me to put on the screen. 6 trillion cells doing 6 trillion operations per second times 60 in 1 minute. Times 60 is 1 hour, times 24 is 1 day. This is big, bigger than we can wrap our heads around. But what Deepak was saying is go inside and go small to see how big. And so that's what I did, and we started to look at the different laws based upon what's happening within our very own bodies. I want to bring it inside of you. This is happening because remember, every cell is basically the same with a little bit of intelligence that changes the base part of it into whether it becomes a brain cell, a stomach cell, or a big toe cell. So what we're talking about is these 6 trillion cells within you live in this perfection. It's going on inside of you, not just out in outer space, you know, millions of light years away. I want you to feel it and get it inside today. Every cell, the brain, the stomach, the nerve cells are birthed from this pure potentiality. They are created out of perfection. Every cell that you and I have. And they're operating that level of perfection if we stay out of the way. If we do not buy into the way we were trained and taught that there's lack and limit, there is none. Pure potential means pure potential for complete and total health forever is the way we were created. We can go back into the Old Testament in Genesis in the very beginning, and God said, I create you and me in my image and likeness. This pure potentiality, this perfection of source is what you and I are created at the cell level. 6 trillion cells within every one of us. And it's perfect. Every one. Let's go on. They all abide by the law of attraction. What do you attract if you're perfection? You can only attract one thing, right? What comes back? Perfection. Every cell attracts to perfection which is needed to remain healthy. Homeostasis is our natural state of every cell. Homeostasis is pure and total health. And that's who you and I are created as. Now, we take on beliefs, do we not? Of lack and limitation. Or not good enough. Or not wealthy enough. Or not pretty enough. Or not smart enough. Those are not how our cells were created. They're created out of pure potentiality, pure perfection, and they will continue to attract that unless we get in the way and attract something different. And the way we attract something different is we pick up a belief. What is a belief? It's a thought with emotion done over and over and over again. If somewhere between 3 and 7 you were taught that you are not good enough, you will have a belief that you're not good enough. And that not good enough will manifest itself through the law of attraction and bring you everything to prove to you that you're not good enough. But it's not who you are. It's not who I am. Let's go on to the next one. The law of karma. Every cell is vibrating in perfection, will only continue in that perfection. We look at the law of karma as something bad. Law of karma doesn't care. It's not about good or bad. It brings you back whatever you put out. It's a universe of boomerang. If I put out good, I get good back. If I put out not so good, I get not so good back. Our cells, if we allow them to be who they are, all 6 trillion, and allow them to be at homeostasis, they can only attract more what? More good health. And I think as you begin to think about this, you can see what happened to me in the middle of the week. I realized that the focus was on doing, and we go out and practice this and do that. Those things are all good, but if we don't get our beliefs straight, that everything within us and every of the 6 trillion cells are perfection, none of what we do will ever matter because we'll attract at the level of our belief. Can you change your belief? Absolutely. It's nothing but a thought with a lot of emotion drives it into the subconscious. But we can release that. One of the ways you release that is begin to harmonize the chakra system. It takes you into balance. We're going to do some work after this. We're also all about releasing anything that's of limit and lack that we're holding on to that's a belief, so we can get back to who we are. We're perfect. Unless we have a belief that we're not. And we all do. Right? Because we were all well trained. Somewhere between 3 and 7. Most of our subconscious beliefs came at that time. We were domesticated at that level of lack. The law of least effort. This flies in the face of everything you and I were taught in the Western world. You know, I played sports in high school, and it was all about the person who could put out the most effort, right? But that's not what this teaches. It's the law of least effort. It's a law of allowing the natural process to begin to get in place and happen. Every cell does its job with quiet efficiency in the state of restful alertness. I don't know how to get there for me except when I meditate. But I don't know about you, but sometimes when I meditate, it creates more churned up stuff. Because our minds, that's why the Taoists call it the monkey mind. It gets busy thinking about something in the past or worrying about the future, and it's like you miss that now moment. of letting it go to a state of restful alertness. But as we learn to practice this, and I've said this over and over again on Sundays and Tuesdays, find the gap between the thoughts. The thoughts will continue to come. You can't change that. They come from other people, they come from around you, they come up out of you, but find the gap between and let the gap expand. And that's where you're going to find this state of restful alertness. And it's in there that the least effort show up in the perfection of who and what we are. The law of intention and desire. Every cell lives in this intention, to use the amazing intelligence to perform every one of the 6 trillion actions per second. Every cell is taking its piece to perfection. And that's what we can begin to bring consciously into the wholeness of who we are. As we begin to flow with this intelligence that built worlds, that built the cosmos, that built the universe, is available to you and I within. And as we quiet the mind and look for the gap and we begin to feel what is ours to do, we will be told. We will be shown. Just like I was shown this week, stop. I don't hear that every week. I've been doing this now for 7 years. I've probably heard it 3 times. But I now, after I argue a bit, I pay attention because I've learned that it's probably the right thing for me to do. But you get the same guidance in whatever you do. If we're getting quiet, if we're listening inside and get connected with the perfection within us, we don't have to stay working with this mind that only knows 4%, according to quantum physicists. I don't know about you, but I want to work with the 100%. And then the more and more that I've learned to do that, the more and more I find ease entering my life. And so will you, as we begin to follow these examples of how to be. The law of detachment. Every cell is detached from any outcome and lives only in this present moment. There is no past and there is no future. There is no God in the past and there's no God in the future. The creator, the divine, the magic happens here and now. And the more you and I can learn to stay there and allow ourselves to be in that now moment, we will begin to be guided. Things will unfold in perfection for you and I. And each of us have a bent, right? You're either one of those typically that's in the past, reliving that out of guilt and all those kind of things, or someone who worries about the future. And either one of them takes you out of the present moment, takes you out of this moment connected with this intelligence. It cannot happen anywhere in the past or future. And as we learn to bring ourselves back and to stay connected in this moment, we begin to see this unfold, all of it. Never in the past, never in the future. And our work is to let go of everything in the past. Forgive it all. And forgive yourself. Because that's the only way you can move into the now. And also to let go of all worry and anxiety. Be anxious for nothing, the master teacher said. Nothing, he said. It wasn't, oh, you can be anxious for a couple things. No, nothing. And as we drop anxiety, as we drop worry, and we move back and know that it's perfect in this present moment, we allow it then to unfold in the best way that it can. That's the beingness that we're talking about here. And finally, the law of Dharma. It's again comes out of the Hindu tradition. Dharma is knowing that you have a plan. You came here for a purpose. Each and every one of us has a unique talent that only you can do. And the only way I know to find it is keep asking. What is it for me? And keep asking, and it will start to unfold. But we have to initiate the ask. It doesn't just fall out of the sky while we're sitting there going, oh. It comes because you ask. And in the asking, you will find what is your unique talent and how can you serve. Because out of that is when fulfillment comes. Out of that is when the peace comes. Out of that is being in this moment, knowing that in my unique way I'm serving just like our cells do. All 6 trillion cells serve every other cell as one unit, unified. And that's our position in the big scheme of 8 billion people on this planet. Someone said to me on Tuesday, it's like a jigsaw puzzle. And we each are a piece of the total composite of life. And when we do not find our place, and we do not use our unique talents, we will not be at peace. Can't be. Because you're not in one of the major universal laws. So how do you get there? You ask. And you will be shown, you will get an answer exactly what your unique talent is and how you show up that you can serve. Because every cell we have, all 6 trillion cells, ask one question. How can I help? Not one cell in you is asking every morning, what's in it for me? Not one. Not one cell wakes up every morning. Well, they don't sleep, but when the sun comes up. They never ask, what's in it for me? They ask, how can I serve best? And in that Dharma, that's how we fulfill that law, that last universal law. What can I do that's unique? And how can I show up and serve? And when we begin to do that, it's when fulfillment comes. And if you remember, and I'm going to show it in a minute, where contentment is on the emotional scale, it's the only way I know to get there, is to really feel that deep, deep fulfillment and contentment is when we're serving with our unique talent in the way we're to give. So these 7 universal laws provide us a window into the thoughts of God, thinking back to what Einstein was saying. How do I know the thoughts of God? I know the thoughts of God by looking at the universal laws that have been put in place. They're eternal. They're always true. We see one of those laws here in the physical, right? Gravity. I've said, I can go over to the Capitol building, climb up on top of that golden statue and say, I don't believe in gravity, and jump off. The law always works. These universal laws always work. What doesn't work is you and I when we're out of an alignment with them and think we're going to figure it out with our 4% mind. And we're going to go this way, and what happens? We usually find our way back in alignment somehow with the universal laws. So now, applying these, I want to take these 7 as we finish up this series, and how do we apply them to us? In the being part, not so much the doing part. So the law of pure potentiality. I don't know any other way to experience this than in the silence. And you know what? Start with 2 minutes, start with 3 minutes, start with 5 minutes. It's not about the time, it's about the consistency that you take every day to get still, to get quiet. And in there, you begin to connect. You know, I told you when I was down in Asheville and I was training, we had 3-hour meditations. And an hour every morning, an hour every night. That's too long for most of us in our lives today. But I think all of us need 5 minutes, or we need 10 minutes, or whatever works for you. Find a time in the morning and at night. End your day with silence, and I promise you, your night will be different. Your dreams will begin to change. Because as we get connected with that perfection within us, but I don't know any other way to do it. The other ones we came up with, we talked about, is meditation, 1, non-judgment of other people, and finally spending time in nature. That one for me is I get connected in nature, I can feel the balance, I can feel the harmony that's there. This comes out of Psalms. Be still and know that I am God. Be still and know that I am God. That's the basis of this whole process of the universal laws. And I don't know how else we can get there, but by going to the stillness. Find that time, 5 minutes, 10 minutes. Allow yourself to find the gaps between the words, between the thoughts. And in that, we begin to bring forth that universal law. And allow, the pure potentiality that's within you to begin to come out and flow. Let's look at number 2. The law of attraction. We attract at the level of our vibration. We don't attract at the level of our words, simply. Right? The 7 weeks, we have learned, that our thoughts and our feelings create our vibration. We are vibrational people. We now know that through quantum physics. We can measure it. We can know where we are on the spectrum, and wherever we are attracting back to us whatever level we're at. Our thoughts create our feelings, right? Our feelings create our beliefs, and the combination of those 3 create our vibration. You know what it feels like to walk into a room with someone you don't connect with, do you not? You feel the vibration, just as they feel yours. And so this law is the law that we attract at the level of our vibration, and we can see how it works with all 6,000 cells, 6 trillion cells that we have. It works with you compositely as a human being. And the law says you will only attract like you are. And the universe always answers what? Yes. Yes to whatever you're attracting or vibrating to. And we'll bring that in the attraction. We talked about these 2 questions over and over again. Is this what I want, and does it feel good? And if it's not, we want to move beyond it, because if it's not what you want, and you're talking and you're feeling about what you don't want, you're going to attract more of that into your life. Does it feel good? No. Then don't stay there. Because the universe is going to say, yes, I will bring to you what you are vibrating to, even if it doesn't feel good. Because you are the one with the power of choice. And each of us have that power. And we can decide what we want to bring. And these are the 2 questions that will keep you in alignment with what is coming to you. Later on in the New Testament, it says, my law will never be mocked. This is the law, I believe. Well, I believe he was talking about all 7 of them. But this is one in particular that will not be mocked. You will attract like attracts like, right? The only time we talk about it not being like is in human relationships. We say opposites attract. Sometimes that doesn't work so well. But the way the quantum physics teach and the way we see it in the universe is like attracts like. And we do that by the vibration that we put out. This is a new, I found this guidance scale. I've been using a different one. But as you can see, the baseline for the upscale is starts at contentment. Number 7 on the scale from 1 to 22. Are you content? And as you begin to look at contentment in what you do, your relationships, in your life, in your job, and the contentment level starts you on an upward spiral. If not, we're in something less than that. And we want to move up at least to contentment so that we can take our lives to a fuller and fuller place and a happier place. The third one is the law of karma. This law has been used in only a negative way, typically, right? You attract back bad things if you put bad things out. That's only half the law. The other side of the law is you put out good things, you attract good back. But this is a boomerang universe. What you put out comes back. And what you vibrate to comes back. And so when we look at all of these as we put them together, we begin. So if you're vibrating at a 7 on that scale or above, what can come back for you? Contentment, joy, peace. But if you're vibrating below there, you're going to bring something back that you probably don't want. And you can look around you and see this law in effect, no matter who it is around you. Excuse me. Sometimes it's much easier, isn't it, to see it in other people than in ourselves. But as we get focused on this, how we are vibrating, what we're putting out, it's coming back, and it will come back in spades. Karma's think good thoughts, and I'm using here some Buddha quotes because I've used a lot of Jesus quotes, and I believe both of them are very awakened human beings that can teach us a lot. And remember, Buddha came 500 or 600 years before Jesus, and there's some real evidence that Jesus went to Tibet and China and India and studied in those 17 years that we don't see anything about him in the Bible. But think good thoughts, say nice things, do good for others, everything will come back. That's the law. The law will always say yes and bring back whatever you put out. The law of least effort. As we attract more of what we want, life begins to flow. This is not pushing the rock up the hill. This is getting in the flow of life, following the universal laws, and we'll begin to see this show up in our lives. If you are stressed out and you are pushing against life, you are not in alignment with one of the universal laws. And you want to very quickly sit down and figure out what you're doing that's putting you at odds with the flow. Because what happens in the stressed out situation, it ends up being dis-ease, not ease. And it will begin to show up in the physical body somehow, some way. Ease and effortlessness brings us fulfillment. And again, if you can see back on the chart, once we're at the level of contentment and moving higher, this is what begins to happen. It shows up in our lives as we move forward. Deepak Chopra said it this way about the law of least effort. Accept people, situations, events as they occur. As you can see, there's no judgment here. It is what it is. Someone's being who they are. They've probably been that way most of their lives. Take responsibility for your situation and for every event seen as problems. This is back to personal responsibility. What can I do about it? Can I release it? How can I look for another way to do it, to find a solution to move beyond it? And relinquish the need to defend your point of view. Oh boy. We like to fight this one, don't we? Put up your dukes. My way or the highway. I got it right. You got it wrong. This is all ego. And it's not being in the flow of life. Because as you move into the flow and the law of least effort, you go to a place of acceptance and allow people to be and think the way they want. It's none of our business, is it? None of our business. They're on their journey. They can think what they want. They can live like they want as long as it doesn't infringe on you. And when you get to detachment and can remove yourself from that, you don't get tangled up in the drama and all of that stuff that goes with defending your point of view. The law of intention and desire, this law begins to occur as we practice all the other ones. Your intention and your desires, you set up these rockets of desire and then maintain the vibration of having it. So when we set it up, we said, this is what I want for my life. This is my desire that I want to bring forth. And it doesn't matter whether it has to do with money, relationships, jobs, physical, emotional, spiritual. The law works the same. You get to choose your desire. And then if you maintain the energy and the vibration of that desire, it will begin to be attracted to you. And we see this time and time again as the law of attraction works. The law of intention and desire, Deepak said this: when we introduce an intention into the fertile ground of pure potentiality, which we just talked about, the perfection of that, we put this infinite organizing power to work for us. So it's not about working harder. It's about working very much smarter and learning to align ourselves with these universal laws that always work, just like gravity works here in the physical. The law of detachment. Fulfilling our desires with effortless ease makes this practice easy. This goes against so much of what we've been taught in the West. You know, you got to sweat hard and grunt and move all the obstacles and all that. That is not the teachings at all in the universal laws. Aligned with Source, we live in a downstream flow. In this teaching was throwing the paddles away. Well, sitting back in the canoe. Get in the flow of life. Let it unfold in the perfect way that it will. This intelligence that created the universe and the cosmos and this planet is the one who will guide you if you get yourself out of the way. And I get myself out of the way. The laws of detachment allow others to be who they are. Allow yourself to be who you are. Don't force situations. Solutions will emerge. Have you ever noticed when you step back, take a big deep breath and relax, and all of a sudden it's like, oh yeah, why didn't I think of that? We often get so in there and put our shoulder to the boulder and got to make it happen, grunt and sweat and do all that stuff. When if we take a breath and we step back and let the flow bring a solution, it's usually much better than when we want to grunt and try to force it to happen. Now this is the last one here is interesting. Uncertainty is a reality. Embrace it. Change is certain, is it not? It happens all the time. Actually, I don't know about you, but in my life it seems change is speeding up. We're seeing more and more change all the time. Embrace it. Don't fight it. Let it be. It's part of the process. And the law of Dharma, knowing our source and our unique talent and serving humanity. Living here brings the fulfillment, brings the contentment, and brings bliss. I don't know any other way to get to bliss. And when I look at the people who project bliss, you see it in their face, you see it in the way they hold themselves in their lives as they go through life. And to me, bliss is the ultimate up at the 22 level of the whole scale, or number one. It's a place that everything, you know within that everything is perfect, and that you're in the flow, you threw the oars out, and you're willing to trust the process of the intelligence that created the universe. And Deepak said this too. This is the fulfillment of the law of Dharma. Find your unique talent and find a way to serve others. And that's where contentment comes from, fulfillment comes from, eventually bliss. I have a couple quotes here at the end I wanted to share from Buddha. And I don't know, maybe in this rewrite this week, they just came up for a reason, probably for me, but I will share them with you anyway. Keep your distance from people who will never admit they're wrong and always try to make you feel like it's all your fault. We've all had a few of those. And all Buddha says is detach, the law of detachment. Let them be who they are. They've been doing it a long time. They're not going to change, folks. It's not your job to change, not mine. Let them be. Their journey. The law of detachment, step back, let it be. No matter how hard the past, you can always begin again. Don't get stuck in the past, right? Because the past does not exist today. It only exists in your memory if you want to bring it to the present. It's only a thought. It's nothing else. But if you want to hold on to the negative energy and the negative emotions, you're going to live in the past. Because you keep bringing the past to now, past to now, past to now, and that's how you give the power to something that doesn't have power. Let it be. Let it go. We are what we think. All that we are arises with our thoughts, and with our thoughts we make our world. Our thoughts create the feelings. Our thoughts and feelings create the vibration. Our thoughts, feelings, and vibration create our lives. We now have science that can measure it. Before it was philosophy, it was spirituality. Now we have the tools and the instruments to measure everything that is being said here. And this came out of the New Testament. Be transformed by the renewing of your mind. Then you will be able to test and approve what God's will is. There's a lot of talk about God's will. But what I love about this verse, it tells us there's something you and I have to do before we can know God's will. We have to transform our minds. And it's in the transforming of the minds that we renew it in alignment with this source, with the divine, with God. And then we can approve and test what the will is. And the will flows through us. Happiness is a choice, not a result. Nothing will make you happy until you choose to be happy. No person will make you happy unless you decide to be happy. Your happiness will not come to you. It can only come from you. I believe this is one of the most profound quotes from Buddha. Because how many people are looking for happiness in all the wrong places? It's never external. It can only come from us as we choose. The choice is to bring forth happiness from within. Make ourselves happy, then we can make those around us happy. And this was a quote that it just struck me in an interesting way. The existence is so quick. This period of time, whether it's 70, 80, 90, 100 years, goes by like the autumn leaves. And it's a movement of a dance. And a lifetime is like a flash of lightning in the sky, rushing by like a torrent down a steep mountain. And what came for me from this is I don't want to waste another minute in being in the drama and the unhappiness or whatever. This thing goes by quick, this time in the parentheses that we're in. You know, again, whether it's 70, 80, 100 years, is nothing when you're talking billions and billions of years of existence. So we want to make the most of every day because it's coming quick and it's coming by fast. And I don't know about you, but the older I get, time seems to speed up. I don't know how that happens, but I can remember being a kid when summer seemed like forever. And now it's like, it's Labor Day. What happened to summer? So I don't know, it speeds up. And finally I wanted to end with Buddha with this. In the end, only three things matter. How much you loved, how gently you lived, and how gracefully you let go of the things not meant for you. How much you loved, how gently you lived, and how gracefully you let go of everything that's not yours. This, I think, takes us to alignment with the beingness of what we're guided to do.